Hey folks, it's Nick, and it's cooking with Jan, but the recipe that I've done more than once, but I don't remember ever doing it for you guys on a vlog cooking. So I decided I'm going to be doing it as a vlog cooking. You'll need the following ingredients. You'll need wax beans if you love wax beans. And for those of you that wonder what wax beans looks like, they look like this. You can get them at this time of year. They're not growing seasonally locally, so I have to buy from the grocery store. And what you'll be doing is you'll be prepping these by washing them. And if you have lots of time, you can break off the ends or cut them like I do. It's a little bit more wasteful, but it's more efficient. You'll need potatoes of your choice. Yellow flesh potatoes probably go better for this type of recipe, because if the potato you're using is not a potato that's water friendly, meaning boiled, it'll disintegrate in the actual recipe. You'll need turnip, and this is my leftover turnip, so I'm going to be using the whole of it. You'll need carrots. I've got 2 carrots here, but I'm going to be bringing out more, which I just purchased. You'll need not this much cabbage, but a good chunk. Now you'll need to clean off the dead leaves and anything that looks gunky and disgusting. And you cut off the portion that you want, you cut it in quarters and you put it in here. You'll need salt. That's pretty much all the flavoring that you're going to be using. You're going to need a good chunk of meat. Now the meat I'm using is a pork loin center. Is it pork loin? No, it's not. I think it's a pork side. I need to educate myself on pork cuts, but it's got bone in it, which you can hardly see here. Here, if I put it closer, you might see some of the bone. And it's half unthawed, and what we're going to be doing is going to be braising it quickly on high heat, so that we can actually melt some of the fat, create some of the stock by adding in water and having this boil while we're prepping the other vegetables. All in all, this takes about, prep time takes about 45 minutes, 30 minutes maybe. And cooking time takes about, I simmer it for 2-3 hours. Enough for this to cook, so that you don't end up being poisoned. So, first things first, let's bring it closer, is making sure that this baby gets braised. Now, you don't really need oil for this, but it's just that meat tends to stick to pots and pans. But you liquefy the running that you've done in the bottom, and it actually creates a flavorful stock. Unfortunately, for meats, the fat is always the tasty portion of any meat. You don't want to chew on it, trust me on that. It's kind of, you have to have a very, very cast iron stomach to be able to do that. And we'll move this here, because I'm probably going to use the back burner, literally. And never mind, my stove is disgustingly filthy. I have to clean it because I've been experimenting all week. Unsuccessfully, I might add. All for flatbread creation. Okay. Rest it here. Now I only have salt in here. And when we are going to add water, since it is sea salt, it should actually create some form of a brine. You don't want the brine too strong, because that's the whole point behind it. It's to just give it flavor and help flavor the vegetables. But we'll be right back after this starts catching the heat. As you can hear, and if you'd be here, you'd be able to smell the nice aroma coming from the melting fat. It's roasting. some dishes that I can mix in from my sink to actually prep the vegetables. I'm turning it on all sides just so I can get some, like you can see here on the back, because it's a rounded cut, I'm only crisping the top layer, can't get to the back. I'm going to be if it's a nice flank cut, it's even better because it cuts evenly, roasts evenly. But this will do nicely because water will do our roasting. As soon as I can find my measuring cup. You'll want to put it on its side so it doesn't take up much space. And then you add in the water. You try to scrape the bits on the bottom of your pan so it can actually allow it to flavor the dish. You're going to be putting water up until about halfway because with the veggies and everything else you'll want to wait until you see how much room you're going to need, because you do not, and I repeat, you do not want this full rolling boil full, because before you put it to simmer you have to put everything rolling boil. If you ever want to see a tidal wave on your oven surface, trust me on it, give it some space. So about 2.5 cups of water. That's enough for now. I've done some of the veggies right now. I got my potatoes right there. I got my wax beans and my 2 carrots. I'm not going to put more because I know I'm going to run out of space. Here's my peelings. For those that compost, you can easily put that in your compost heap. And here's a turnip. Now the reason why I'm showing you this is because I don't know if you can see this. I'll try to actually see it. See the dividing line here where there's whiter flesh and this yellow flesh? This is what you need to peel off the turnip. Now the way I do it is a little bit dangerous, but it works sufficiently for me because I'm used to it after so many years. But I take my knife and I basically shave off first bit, and as you can see it takes it off. The reason why is because it's a little bit more tough to eat. Even under proper circumstances, sometimes turnips are just not ripe enough. Even if they look it. There we go. Turnip scraps. And while I was breaking the wax beans, I started reminiscing about when I was a child. My grandmother used to actually fix a lot of them. She used to have a garden. And we used to actually jump at the occasion to give her a helping hand, but what usually ended up happening is we'd be breaking one, eating 3. Now the final ingredient that's almost ready is my selection of cabbage. I'm not going to be using a lot because I really don't have that much space, but as you can see, the leaves are, some are black and they look scummy. But the fun thing about a cabbage is that it protects itself quite well. You just peel off the first few leaves until you start seeing nice foliage inside. Usually the first 2 or 3 leaves is usually sufficient enough. Why do you think that when you buy a lettuce at a grocery store, you get some good lettuce? Because the clerks are trained on trimming the leaves, the disgusting ones. Food that doesn't look nice doesn't sell. Or it sells, but not at fast enough speeds for the store. I wouldn't be able to do this. It would plague my conscience. As much as it's a paying job, it's something I wouldn't be able to actually do with an easy conscience. Not because I'm afraid of hurting vegetables, but I'm afraid of actually. I'm going to use this side because this has to come out. So you can take it from here. There we go. Nice for coleslaw. Whoop. Nice for coleslaw. Nice for pretty much anything. Cabbage is a very versatile vegetable. Put this back in the fridge. I always have at least 1 red or 1 white cabbage. This is white cabbage. Not to be confounded with White Castle. And then just shave off. Actually, I'm going to take off that extra leaf. There we go. And you want to quarter this. Half at first. And I'm making a mess. And then quarter it. Even if you have stray leaves. Believe it or not, it sweetens up a roast, a salt boil. That's basically what I'm creating right now, a salt boil. So I've got all my ingredients prepped. Now I just need to verify something in my mommy's book of recipes, passed down from generation to generation, to make sure that I'm doing this correctly. Because even myself, I sometimes flub. Okay, you need to put actually 3/4 water, which I pretty much have. And I need to let this simmer, the piece of meat that I'm doing right now. Now that my ingredients are all ready, I can go and relax. That needs to boil for 1.5 hours. It's already been boiling for at least 40 minutes, so I'm going to put the rest of the timer for another 50 minutes. I'm going to cover it. And leave it on high boil and come back and see how it goes. At that point, when this goes off, I'll be able to put in the rest of the ingredients. And as you can see, it's cooked. Now the water simmered to the point that it's actually beyond the 3/4 mark. So I'm going to add a little bit more, and I'm going to throw in my veggies. I may run out of room. This is the only bad thing about doing these roasts. If you don't have a pot big enough, you can't do them all the time. What I will do is I will only put in a certain limited amount. I may be able to put everything. It's finding nooks and crannies. If you have a roaster or a pot that's big enough to put everything, more is the better for you. I'm going to leave it open. Now you'll want this to simmer again, high boil, which this may go over. Once it starts rolling boil again, then you bring it down to a simmering temperature, which is usually 3 on my dial for a GE. But depending on the type of stove that you have, you may have to do some testing to figure out which one's which. So it's almost 8:40 now. Actually, it's almost 9. I still haven't eaten. This is going to be a quick meal, but it's going to give me leftovers for a few days, which is the nice thing about doing these pot dishes. So we'll cover it. Actually, I'll leave it open, because if this starts splashing, it's going to make some noise, and it's going to make a mess, and it's going to require cleaning up the stove. But that's okay. That's a part of cooking. Nasty, but still it's required. We'll be right back when it's the finished product, so we can give you a taste test. And the simmering's done, and here's the finished result. Num num. Like, you can smell it in the air. The potatoes. See, this is what I meant about potatoes disintegrating. I'm gonna go get myself a bowl and serve myself a portion. Now usually this you can eat with bread of your choosing. I could have cooked a little bit longer in regards to the vegetables. But these wax beans, see, wax beans give you the telltale, if they're still crunchy, it's probably cooked, undercooked. But since my meat's well done, I'm not too concerned about it being undercooked. And it's hot to boil. I'm going to have to add salt because I think this is a little bit bland. You're supposed to be able to taste the actual brine. Up to a certain degree. There's better pork servings that you can get that the meat's easier to actually serve off of the bone. Let's give it a taste test, shall we? Boiling hot. My tongue is still reeling from that small bite from a bean. Actually, I stand corrected. It's just has enough spice, enough taste in it. So, I hope you try it. If you can get a nice cut, a center loin cut, it actually goes well in this. And you just use the center loin, roast it on both sides, put water in it, boil it for an hour and a half, add your veggies, put it to simmer on medium-low for about an hour. Just make sure that you can taste salt in the water, in the brine, well, in your broth. If you don't taste some salt, there's not enough, and your veggies are going to be bland, and so is going to be the meat. So, that's it. From Nick, this was Cooking with Jan. Have fun with your friends and family doing this, and have a nice one.